It is Friday, April 3rd, 2020, and you are tuned into DIRTRACKR Daily. I'm Justin Fiedler. Last night was the opening night for the USAC iRacing Challenge. If you get a chance to tune into that, it was live on Flow Racing as part of your Flow Racing subscription. For this first race, they raced midgets at Kokomo Speedway. 53 cars took time in qualifying, with Brendan Rogers taking quick time over Chase Cabre by only 4/1000ths of a second. Insane how close they were there in qualifying. The format for the night was 6 10-lap heat races. They lined them up straight up by qualifying with the top 3 transferring, followed by an 18-lap C main with the top 4 transferring to the B, a 24-lap B main with the top 6 transferring to the feature, and then a 40-lap feature. The heats were won by Brendan Rogers, Chase Cabre, Alex Bergeron, Joel Berkeley, Kyle Larson, and Dazen Persley. You'll kind of start to notice a theme here with some of the names. If you haven't heard names like Chase Cabre, Alex Bergeron, Joel Berkeley, those are some of the iRacing pro-level guys that were invited into this. I'll have some thoughts on this here in a little bit. But those guys won the heat races. Caden Brown won the C with Ace McCarthy, David Heileman, and Mario Klauser transferring. Aiden Perdue won the B main with Steven Schnapp, Trey Schmidt, Ryan Diate, and Justin Thomas, and Vinny Sansone transferring. From the pole in the feature, Brendan Rogers led the first 2 laps, but Alex Bergeron took the lead on lap 3. He held the top spot until lap 17 when Rogers took the lead back from him. From there, Rogers was pretty much untouchable. He led the remainder of the feature, winning over Bergeron, Chase Cabre, Joel Berkeley, and Adam Elby. While he is a veteran of the USAC Western States Midget Series, Brendan Rogers is definitely a top-level iRacer. He's going to kind of be like the one little bit of kind of outlier in the discussion a little bit, but he's somebody who has experience in a real midget, but is in this deal because of his iRacing standing. But he won last year's the opener for the USAC iRacing World Championship last year. They ran sprint cars in a full series for iRacing, and he won the opener for that. The rest of that top 5 was dominated by names you normally see in front of those iRacing dirt events. Bergeron, he's done really well in the sprint car stuff. Joel Berkeley had a good run the other night. Chase Cabre. So these guys are on kind of a little bit different level, and I think this was a big difference last night that you saw in this USAC iRacing opener is the pro level guys were involved in this, and you haven't seen that so far with the World of Outlaws, the NASCAR, the IndyCar races. Those races have only allowed the guys who are the real life competitors and the names that you're used to seeing at the front of those fields, whereas this USAC show was a combination of the two. I think it was a little bit of an interesting choice by the guys that put this together. I'll be curious to kind of see how this is going forward. I think, even as talented as those guys are and the names that you saw in the race last night, even just the USAC competitors, the Logan Seavies and the Buddy Kofoids and Tyler Courtney and Thomas Meserol and Chris Wyndham and all of those guys that were involved in this race last night, they're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage in these iRacing events versus the pro level guys. The same obviously would be true in real life. If the pro level iRacing guys jumped in an actual midget, obviously the real life racers would have quite a bit of an advantage over them. And I wonder how quickly the actual USAC racers will be able to kind of close that gap. I'm sure a lot of them have been getting in a lot of laps, and I'm sure they'll probably continue to get a lot of laps, and I'm sure that gap will close up. And you saw some guys who were super competitive, and CV's obviously been good, and even Larson and Bell. Those guys have been pretty fast in some of these events also. So, and I would imagine that a lot of these USAC competitors probably have iRacing time already. So it's not a huge jump for them, but just the amount of laps and the experience or whatever in the simulation is going to be a lot more for these other guys. So they're definitely going to have an advantage moving forward. So like I said, it'll be kind of curious to see how that goes and how these races continue to play out the next couple of weeks. The next USAC iRacing Challenge event is next Thursday, April 9th. They're going to switch over from running midgets to running non-wing sprint cars, and they will be at Knoxville Raceway. That will again be, I believe, at 9 p.m. Eastern next Thursday, live on Flow Racing. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, DIRTVision is hosting another round of watch party starting tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. They're going to show 2 World of Outlaws late model shows tonight. First up is the Advanced Auto Parts 60 from 2005 at the Lernerville Speedway. They will follow that up with a 2010 World of Outlaws Late Model Show from Attica Raceway Park. On Saturday night, starting around 7:15 p.m. Eastern, the 2007 Summer of Money Harris 40 from I-55 Raceway for the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. That'll kick things off, followed by the 2007 Summer of Money Budweiser 40 from KC Raceway, which is... I'm not sure what KC Raceway is now. That the name has since changed. Both watch parties are included in your DIRTVision Fast Pass. They've kind of switched these up. The first couple of these were just the races, kind of played back to back to back. And now they've added in some driver commentary. So, kind of like the USAC Thunder Relive stuff. They've done some interviews with a bunch of drivers. And I know they've got a bunch of drivers kind of lined up for some of the interviews and kind of in-show action this week to kind of help comment on these races as they happen. So those are kind of turning into a little bit bigger production. I think that's going to be pretty neat. I think they started that last week, if I remember correctly. But check those out. That's part of your DIRTVision Fast Pass at DIRTVision.com, both tonight and tomorrow night, Friday and Saturday. If you're going to work around the house this weekend or need something to help keep your brain occupied, there's a couple of new podcast episodes this week. Wing Nation has Bobby Davis Jr. Rip the Fence did a show with Logan Seavey. The Rigsby Report has Tyler Carpenter. Jeremy Elliott has Dale Blaney and Robbie Kendall. And Ohio Dirt has Ron Gorby. The other podcasts, except for Jeremy Elliott and Ohio Dirt, can be found on DIRTRACKR.com/podcasts or in those podcast feeds. The Jeremy Elliott Show and the Ohio Dirt Show can be found over at SprintCarUnlimited.com. Jeremy's show is behind the paywall, but the Ohio Dirt Show is free over there, so you can check those out. I wanted to also point out a little bit of reading, cool story this week. Kevin Swindell has been participating in a lot of this iRacing stuff, and the World of Outlaws did a story about him leading into Wednesday's FS1 broadcast, kind of about his setup and his kind of customized steering wheel that allows him to compete in these events. Pretty long form story over there at worldofoutlaws.com. Goes into kind of detail, about his setup. There's some pictures and what it takes for him to kind of be able to race and compete. So pretty neat deal over there. If you want to check that out, that's over at worldofoutlaws.com. And you're probably sick of me hearing about this, or sick of hearing me talk about this by now, but I finally got the World of Outlaws late model stats pages up last night. I've talked earlier in the week about getting the races and the results loaded in, but now the stat pages are available. I went ahead and made a bunch of adjustments to the analytics section to be able to handle more series, because before, obviously, it was just all of the World of Outlaws sprint car stuff. But right now, I've got the 9 2020 races in so far that have happened for the World of Outlaws late model series. You can find all of that over at DIRTRACKR.com/analytics. All the stats are up now. The same stats that I've done for the Sprint Car Series are now available for the Late Model Series. You can find the driver rating that I built, feature wins, top 5s, top 10s, average finish, which also includes average start, laps led, feature plus minus, which if you don't know what that is your starting position and your finishing position, basically whether you move forward or move backwards in the field, heat race plus minus, which is the same thing, average qualifying position, and then my track-based stats. Right now I have most wins by track size. As we get some more races in, I'll add back in the average finish by track size as well, so that'll be part of that. And then as I continue to expand the stats, obviously those will both be included as I move forward. Over the weekend, my hope is to start adding the 2019 races for the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, which will then kind of make those stats a little more robust and a little more interesting to kind of take a look at. Right now, as of the recording of this show, there are 162 total races in the database between the two World of Outlaws series. So check that out if you get a chance. We'll certainly talk about some of those stats and things going forward on the show, because I think there's a lot of neat things to pick through there and get some ideas about, who's good where, and not just guys like Brandon Shepard, but some of the other guys that we've seen compete here in the last couple of years. I think it'll be interesting to take a look at some of those numbers, and we'll break a lot of that stuff down. I think I'm going to probably do the iRacing stuff is going to continue, and I feel like this show has probably turned into a little bit of an iRacing show, which for right now is fine. This is a show about dirt racing, and this is what there is to talk about right now for dirt racing. So once we go back racing, obviously we'll go back to being much more heavily involved and talking about the actual racing that's going on. But for the time being, this is what there is to talk about, so that's what we'll talk about. And I know, that some of you aren't super thrilled with the iRacing stuff. That's fine. But I would like to maybe do, maybe some reviews of some old races or some other things like that. And I still have plans to do some interviews on the show. I just haven't gotten in and kind of overcome some of the tech issues and some of the, the setup things I need to do to make sure that that works properly and everything sounds good and looks good and stuff like that. So I'll be tackling that soon and helping, kind of expand a little bit of the show and making it a little more interesting with some guests and some different perspectives. But that's the show for today. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed the show. You can find DIRTRACKR Daily on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or where you get podcasts. Please subscribe, leave me a review, tell your friends. You can also watch the show on YouTube and Facebook. You can email the show at info@dirttracker.com. You can follow along with DIRTRACKR at facebook.com/DIRTRACKR and twitter.com/DIRTRACKR. I post the show every single day when I have it to those places, and I also do kind of what's happening at DIRTRACKR.com post every single day to give you kind of some of the big links and things like that are going on stories and things like that around the dirt world. So if you'd like to follow me, you can do that there. You can also check out the site at DIRTRACKR.com. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Justin_Fiedler. You can also sign up for the DIRTRACKR weekly newsletter. That's over at DIRTRACKR.com. Like I said, hope everybody has a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday to talk about what happened over the weekend and get you up to speed on everything that's going on. And we will see you next Monday on DIRTRACKR Daily.